or could, if we're open to it, increase quicker understanding, grasping of more with fewer words, fewer pictures.
Yeah, I think this is an evolutionary growth in the ability of humans. In spite of any, or outstanding from any kind of technology or any of this, the more we know as humanity, the easier it is for the next generation to learn that. So, for instance, it may have been very difficult for us old guys to learn to play with electronics, but now, you look at 3-year-olds and their accomplishments on keyboards and other kinds of electronics and their understanding. It was just so easy for them to learn. So the natural response to all of this is actually working at that larger genetic level that exists beyond all of us. And it's going to get really interesting over this next couple of years, because we're going to go through some very, very, very difficult stuff. But way on the other side of it, the, quote, golden age will come about, because the powers that be won't be interfering with us. Humans will actually start educating themselves instead of simply being schooled in this, repressive structure that we have now. And a lot of that stuff's going to go away. The difficulty for all of us and the challenge for all of us will be living through the day-to-day impacts on our lives, and then the combined effect of all of this on our overall life. In other words, anybody that right now thinks of retirement as something, going out playing golf and all of that, they're simply deluding themselves.
Yes.
And there will be a whole class of people that, to a certain extent, we're going to kind of have to write off, simply because they won't want to put the energy into recognizing what's going along, and so they're going to be run over by the stampede of fate instead of seizing their destiny. And that's really where we're at right now, is these are the destiny days. We have a lot more information developing, we can tell from the bulges in the current data gathering relative to the 2017 onward period of time. So that's encouraging. But between now and then, it's going to be extremely rough. And the best place to start, I think, is with ourselves and work outward in terms of getting ready for it. It's easy for me to say, because I'm not living in a car parked outside of a city, or trying to exist under in a dumpster or under a freeway bridge as many people are. There's going to be millions more that join them. We're going to have a horrific time with starvation on this planet. The starvation levels now are about 100 million a year. 10 million direct, and then 100 million ancillary through, continual malnutrition and so on. And that's going to really scale up as we go forward. But, in tough times, the people get tougher, and that's what we really need at this point.
And the reason I mentioned that, your words at the end, is because there has to be an understanding of the language, what courage is, and fear is totally debilitating.
Fear is the mind killer,
as
Frank Herbert observed in many of his books. And once you recognize fear and learn it, then you feel it coming on you. Fear is usually connected with your stomach, your intestines, and that's where fear lives, and it can be dominated. You need not allow that to control everything, but we're curiously wired. That is to say that there's a thing called, I think it's the vagus nerve, and that nerve goes through this secondary brain that we have. Our intestines are actually surrounded by a neural mass that is the same kind of neurons as you find in your brain. And this neural mass reacts and floods your system with basically the fear chemicals. And the powers that be are attempting to use the linguistic center, which is behind your left eye and back a ways on the other side of your sinuses. And they're trying to trigger little bits and pieces in there to create effective control mechanisms that will allow them to basically trigger your second brain around your intestinal area to flood your body with fear, which sort of paralyzes you for a bit and allows them to take over and be more in control, because you'll be more susceptible to their orders under the circumstances. So basically, language matters because it allows these interneural connections to be manipulated, very much like neuro-linguistic programming or hypnosis or mind control, however you want to think about it. Once these pathways exist, they're that much easier to trigger and effectively use. but you can undo them consciously, and that's the good part. If you catch yourself doing, responding to things in fear and in anxiety, then you can say, aha, now I grasp it, now I see it. And once you've grasped it, you own it. You own the control of it. It'll be that much easier the next time, and that much easier the time after that. It's kind of like willpower. You don't have it until you exercise it, and you only need to exercise it once to own it the rest of your life.
Yes.
Yeah, so we must see that these things as programmed emotions.
Yes.
And not attach our identity to it. That is not who we are. It's a programmed chemical emotion. And so from that perspective is where you can start to get the crack that detaches.
Yes, the little thin edge of the wedge.
Yeah,
yes.
It's a wedge in there, and then it starts losing its power, and you can do that with any emotion you don't want.
Or any person that's controlling you, any situation. If you live in a situation where you're involved with, alcoholism in a family situation, enablers, any of this kind of stuff, domestic violence, once you recognize that you're in that situation and start catching yourself there, then you've had that thin edge of the wedge in there. You are starting to get into control, and from that point on, your life is yours, and you can make it even better. And so if there's a slip back or occasionally, step back out of it, recognize what's going on, and get moving forward.
That's it. You can always take that step backwards.
And by the way,
such
situations, I bring them up quite deliberately. Alcohol is a poison, and we should never allow it as a legal drug in our society. But alcoholism and domestic violence, which is frequently associated with alcoholism, are both examples of actual psychopathic behavior. Well, I bring this up because the powers that be are, by definition, psychopaths. And so they're going to fall into the same pathways as the abusive parents or the alcoholic parents or whatever under these circumstances. And you'll get into those same neural ruts. And it's just a matter of recognizing the rut in order to be able to step out of it. And ultimately you get to the point where you say, I am a sovereign individual. You have no control over me. And then they get real irritated and go away. Ultimately they go away.
And what helps is a little physical preparedness also. I don't mean bodybuilding. This is why we press a lot on preparedness here, because if you have food for your family stored or ways to grow it, that in itself brings a measure of peace, and you have more of that energy to put towards controlling the fear or controlling the chaos that is going to be.
Well,
so
also,
evident.
insofar as the physical reactions within the body, the best thing one can do is to learn the yogic kind of breath control techniques. So, for instance, you probably are not aware of it, but the dominant nostril for breathing alternates about every 90 minutes at an outside. You can alter your state of mind by closing off the dominant nostril and breathing out the other one, restarting the cycle. You can do a lot of double breath techniques, or what we do in Aikido, which is this cleansing breath, and that quite truly will cleanse your body of fear chemicals. And so because you notice that when you get into a fear state, you're breathing in the upper half of your lungs, your abdomen is tight, and so on. If you actually go to the trouble of consciously releasing the tension in the abdomen, fear can be felt evaporating away.
Yes, and you know what? You might just be the person to do a program on that. Think how helpful that will be.
Yeah, we can think about that. Yeah,
we can.
Cool.
Of course, we'll need lots of scary noises.
Oh, okay.
Just so we have some examples,
Right.
We have those possibilities here, so that's good.
Yeah, but let's not bring Kissinger into this.
No! Downer. Okay. Thank you, Cliff.
Sure thing, guys.
You are awesome.
Totally.
Talk to you guys later.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.